Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. This is a Saturday edition. I'm Adolph Mongo. I'm back today. Joining us is Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit. Worked for the Detroit News, the Washington Post, and the Eagle American.
Good
How you doing, Allan? Good morning.
morning. Good morning, everyone.
And we get a shout out to Robert Jackson, who was the advisor of the Eagle American. You look probably look at his long career in journalism. He probably produced a lot of journalists.
Yeah,
When I wouldn't work for a newspaper if it wasn't for him. You
yeah,
know.
absolutely. He was great. He taught me really the foundation of journalism. I mean, after that, I took classes in college, but he really taught us a lot. He was great.
He taught me. I wrote an article. I can't think of. I should remember the name of the student body president, Joel somebody, Joel Kaufman. I think. I'm not sure if that's a person. But anyway, I wrote an article. He was some kind of radical. So I don't. And I told him to shut up and sit down and all this and Mr. Jackson loved the article. Said, yeah,
That's
usually we don't get students criticizing other students. I say they all fair game. And last but not least, uh, Vanessa Moss, Vanessa Moss, attorney Vanessa Moss. I, I don't know how long I'm just going to keep saying attorney Vanessa Moss, but today it is. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Adolph. Good morning, Lady T. Listen, you know what we got. What we want you guys to do. You are watching the greatest show on these YouTube streets. So what we would like for you to do is like, subscribe, and share. To subscribe is free. You can catch us on all social media platforms. You can join us in the comment section, or you can decide that you want to come on into the room like Miss Sheila did last night. You can use that link that's right up there in the corner. Take your phone, put the camera on the phone, and come on into the room. Good morning, Detroit Black and White viewers, family. Good morning.
Okay. Um, I hate to be the one that say I told you so. When the mayoral race was going down and it looked like Mary Sheffield had it in the bag, and early on, I wrote a couple articles for Allen's publication, criticizing her absence from the conservancy, uh, Detroit Conservancy, Riverfront. But anyway, $50 million, 45, $50 million was stolen under part of her watch, not all of it, because she wasn't on council when they said this guy, just Bill Smith, was taking money. And the media, well, they played it up a little bit and kept going because she said I had nothing to do with that, and that wasn't my job to do that, and she kicked it to the side. Now we get this 300,000 stolen by an individual allegedly on the People Mover, and while she was on the board for 2 or 3 years, she never went to a meeting. This is her MO. Don't go to the meetings. What is she gonna do as the mayor to people that do the same thing? You can't, you can't bring judgment on folks that work for you if you don't do the right thing. Now, is this a Allen? Is
right.
this a big story? Is
I,
this is is
I
this
think
is gonna dog her for a while? Will it go away?
I think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna dog her for a long time. But I think the Detroit News wrote a story saying that she was on during the time this guy basically embezzled. He worked out he worked out like over $300,000 in contracts for non-existent work for IT
He
work.
stole.
This guy arranged it. He worked for the People Mover. He arranged these contracts that were totally bogus, and he got a kickback from that $300,000. Mary's on the board. You know, I think it raises some issues here that we've seen it twice now. We've seen it with the Riverfront Conservancy, which had dozens of board members there. And the thing that really bothers me as much as her saying, she said it's ceremonial, which I believe on the Conservancy thing, but she said Matt Cullen, who's the chairman of the board, that he bears no responsibility. And I think that she's not only skirting responsibility for herself, but also making excuses for the top guy there. He's the chairman of the board.
It should have been, she should have called for an investigation because this guy, Smith, did not steal that money without help. I just can't believe for 15 years or so, how many years, that you can just take money, get loans, and do all the things. He buying boats, mansions, clubs, cars, home in Atlanta, 2 homes in Detroit, without some help. Vanessa, is this an important story, or is this just some shit that's gonna blow away?
Well, so I have my own opinion about this thing. So, as a board member, and I sit on several boards, you do bear some responsibility, but ultimately, you know, where is the checks and balances? And I'm going to use the example of the guy with the Detroit People Mover. It appeared to me that his work was so sophisticated that he was able to do this for a long period of time. I know that there has to be a budget, a report on the budget, how much has been spent, how much is coming in, those kind of things. And usually when you have a meeting, what happens is, you know, you have minutes, the minutes go out, you have the treasury report, you have the budget, etc. And if you have any questions, then you ask those questions. Now, I'm going to get to your question. These things happened when she was on Detroit City Council. Serving as mayor is 2 different things. So the question really becomes, is your history indicative of what you're going to do moving forward, or is it indicative of what you're likely to do? When you talked about the Detroit Conservancy, as Allan indicated, was a whole lot of people that sat on that board. And I believe that when the mayor says, hey, listen, they just put my name on there with Sarah.
But she put her 12 years when she was running for office. He said 12 years of experience.
But this is the thing, though, Adolph. She is the mayor, but we had a mayor before her. She's just been the mayor for 6 months. Why is it that people are now piling on her? And you didn't have anything to say about the previous mayor because
that's what people do.
This happened when this happened on his watch, to be honest with you.
Well.
This happened on his watch. When you talk
but
about
it don't make it. It won't make it better because she is now the mayor. You can't. I don't care. I don't care. It's on her watch now.
You asked me, is it a non-story?
Yes.
It was on the media, as far as I'm concerned, because they chose to give the previous mayor, in my estimation, I'm not picking on you, Allan, in my estimation, because he was the savior of the city of Detroit, he did all these wonderful things. A lot of things, you may have had a blurb in the paper about what was going on, but it was like a one-day story.
Okay. Let me ask you this:
I'm not giving her the same kind of grace and consideration.
Let me. But she's the mayor. But let me ask you this: now, when this dirt shit come up, and you could make the same argument that it was under his watch, but she voted for it, even though she had connections. And if she was smart, she would call for an outside investigation of the tainted dirt. Now, that's how you do that. What?
I said there is an FBI investigation now, but she didn't call for it.
But who's investigating?
The FBI. Well, the FBI is investigating the whole thing. I don't know if they're investigating her.
But I would call for the FBI. I would call for another agency, somebody to come in and that that and say, okay, she she shouldn't have voted. Duggan was all behind it, etc. Otherwise we go we gonna get you saying and people saying, not just you. Uh, she wasn't the mayor then, but she did vote for the contract. Now that's going to come up. What about other stuff that's going to come up? And they find she had a little hand in it, and the mayor knew about it, the previous mayor. But what are we going to say? That's Duggan. So everything that comes up, we gonna point to Duggan, but he ain't the mayor.
Yeah, he's not the mayor. But what I am saying is this: is it? My question is: Are you asked me? Is this a one-day story? And my question is goes back out there to the media.
Is it a one-day story? Is it
Is it going to be a one-day story?
Yeah.
That's the media as to whether or not they're going to treat it as a one-day story. And I also say that if it's not, why isn't she being given the same grace that
Okay, well, that's a fair question, Allan. You're a journalist, so
I'll
go
say,
ahead.
as a member of the media, I can say this story's not going to have a lot of legs. I mean, it's not. I mean, one of the reasons the Conservancy story had some legs was because it was election year, and it was being brought up by other candidates like Todd Perkins and other people were raising it as an issue. Since it's not an election year, and she's a board member. I think it's going to have
Right.
scandal. It's not going to be a full-blown scandal. The dirt thing potentially is a full-blown scandal, depending on what comes out of that. But I think Duggan and her bear some responsibility for the soil. I mean, Duggan was hailing this guy for his work and for his business acumen. And she was dating the guy, and I don't care what the city says, the legal department says, it is a conflict of interest. If you're dating a contractor and you're approving millions of dollars to that contractor, that is a clear conflict of interest. You shouldn't have to go and ask somebody, and they gave her a bullshit answer to that, saying it was okay, which is just total nonsense. It's not okay to the voters, to the citizens of the city.
Well, and it's not, and we probably, if people did an investigation into Duggan 12 years as mayor, probably find a lot of things. Duggan got a pass on the schools, and now the schools is a national disgrace across the U.S. It's the worst school district in America. It went from 200,000 plus students to less than 40,000, and it's still you can't even educate those 40,000 students. And we keep patting our superintendent Vidi on the back. He's making almost $500,000 a year. He's been trying to get out of there for the last 3 or 4 years. He was a candidate for openings in Houston and other places, and didn't make the final cuts. But how do we just sit back? And I say somebody should be responsible for it. And I advocated the mayor should run the school system. Man, I got beat up all over the place. Oh, the mayor just can't just can't run the city. So who is responsible for the school district?
Let's not pretend, because we had a situation where if you're talking about the schools, we had a situation where we had you had
emergency manager.
You had a takeover, and the emergency manager made all the decisions. You didn't The school board didn't get to participate or anything like that. Do not pretend as if voters don't have PTSD behind the emergency manager. That could be a great reason why people are like, no, we don't want that power and control in the mayor's office. And if people were to agree with your assessment of the current mayor, are you really saying that if people agree with you? I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying if people agree with you, I think those same people will say, well, then we don't want her as, we don't want the mayor over the public schools.
But you got checks and balances, because if the mayor picks,
with the Detroit Conservancy, you have.
But we don't. Well, I'm saying in a perfect world, this is what we have. But people forget that Duggan, under the state takeover and emergency manager, Duggan was in charge of money, the finances. They spent all the money,
So
but
my point.
I know but my point is, you might get a mayor that could. Somebody they gotta answer to somebody, because the board don't answer to anybody, and the superintendent damn well don't answer to anybody. When he sent his kids to another school district, and nobody says one damn word.
Well, Adolph and Allan, what I'm saying to you is this: if people agree with you about your assessment of the current mayor, how is it that you can ask for those same people to say, let her have that power and control? You sat up here and you criticized her for not showing up.
Well, right. Well, they're supposed to. Supposed to. But that don't make her a bad. That don't make her a bad mayor. That don't make her a bad mayor. That don't make her a bad mayor.
Allan just talked about how there was
your argument is flawed, Vanessa, because if a judge, wait a minute, you unsaid it,
sir.
Okay, your argument is flawed, because if a judge make a bad decision and you give him control, like we gave Fiken, the late Judge Fiken, federal judge, control of the water department, and he said things and did things that people say, why are we giving him control? Because they said otherwise he's a good judge, he can do well. That we say, damn, if we look at their opinions, she or he made some bad opinions, so we can't trust them. No, she decided to blow off a meeting as president of the city council, and she said it wasn't that important. But as a mayor, I'm important. We need to take a break. Vanessa. We need to take a break. We'll come back and continue the conversation. Detroit in black and white.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation? The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
Welcome back to Detroit in black and white. I'm Adolph Mongo, Allan Lengel, and Vanessa Moss. Vanessa, before we go on to the another topic, why don't you read some of the comments from our viewers?
going to go through the comments. Good morning, Karen Winston. Good morning, Stephanie Jackson, Terry McCrimmon, Mr. 1213, Lessons Moore, Miss Suzuki, Timothy Squire Bay. Karen Winston says, put me on the board too. I can do nothing like the best of them, with a laughing emoji. Miss Suzuki, she compliments me on my earrings. Thank you. Lessons Moore says, Mayor Sheffield is not necessarily clean in these issues, but Duggan is prominently responsible for these crimes against Detroiters. Mr. 1213 says, the mayor is young and vibrant and can be a positive face of Detroit. She will have to purge the old in her administration, get more of the new, and picked from without.
I agree with that. She shouldn't have kept all those folks. Go ahead.
Terry says, this is what happens when you are the city council president and you rubber stamp everything the previous mayor asked for, and now you're left holding the bag. This story, Ms. Suzuki says, this story would not have a lot of legs unless she irritates the power brokers. Stephanie Jackson says a law degree is not required to know it was a conflict. Timothy Squire Bay says, but it is what it is. All this happened on Duggan Watch. She is only watch blame everybody. Duggan gave his girlfriend a contract. Michelle, all board members are responsible. Even the members that resign once the shit hit the fan. Mr. 40 Scratch, good morning. Mr. 40 Scratch says, yeah, the fake news is going to get them. Look how they've been treating Trump. Third option says Adolph is just looking to stir up muck. The problem in Detroit has always been the political operations behind the scenes that have ulterior motives that represent opposing sides and invest and interest. I'm sorry. Stephanie says, I'm sure this type of dealings have occurred for years. We also have.
Yeah, but I can take it with Mary Young and his girlfriend. Barbara Parker was in charge of food distribution in the city, giving it to organizations, and they let it spoil. You don't remember that, do you, Allan?
Yep.
Yeah, $200,000, $300,000 worth of food. I mean, just spoiled in a warehouse, and it was a story. But you know, Coleman Young dealt with it head on and kept going because he didn't get rid of her from her position, and everybody knew that they was hanging out together. So yeah, we had Duggan get his girlfriend $400,000 contract, and it was news for a minute, but it went away. What?
I mean, that was news for quite a while with that. I mean, conflict of interest. He should have said, look, I mean, I think she's got a good reputation as a doctor and all that still.
But you just can't use the city as an ATM machine.
There's conflicts. It doesn't matter. It's perceptions. It's like Clarence Thomas.
But it's up to the media, where the media went berserk over Kwame having an affair while married with a chief of staff. But nobody said anything to James Blanchard when he divorced his wife and married his secretary.
But
nobody said anything to England when he was hanging tough, and his wife, the second wife, Colleen, she was a state senator. She ran on a ticket with Bill Lucas. He divorced her and married a woman who had triplets. And they didn't say, when the woman that had triplets left and took her babies back to Texas, nobody wrote about it. They just let it keep going. So, hey, it's the media decide what they want to do. You the media, Allan, go ahead.
There's a distinction there. I mean, Kwame's affair ended up becoming part of a legal proceeding where Christine Beattie and him were both committed perjury.
So it's not a news story if a mayor or a married governor is sneaking around with somebody that's not his wife. Well, we
Well,
look at what happened in South Carolina with Mark Sanford sneaking over to South America to see his woman.
yeah, I'll say this: when Blanchard, when he was getting a divorce, the rumor was that he was having an affair with the woman that he eventually married. They sent us out. I was working in the Detroit News Lansing Bureau. Blanchard was doing a press conference and a reopening of a street near the Capitol, and all the press showed up. I went with George Weeks, who was our political columnist. And what happened was, finally he says, welcome. We were finally opening the street. And then he said, I know you're all not here for that, for the street opening. Go ahead, ask questions. So nobody wanted to ask him, but the guy from the Flint Journal says, Governor, is your wife, Paula Blanchard, still going to have police protection? And I'm like, oh my God. So then Tim Jones from the Detroit Free Press said, Governor, there's rumors that you're having an affair. And he said, rumors, rumors, rumors. And I went, Governor, are the rumors true? And he looked at me and said, you tell whatever editor sent you to ask that question. The answer is no. He was lying to us, but we did write about it, but it wasn't criminal.
And the average person didn't know. Do you agree or disagree that, if the media, Vanessa, want to keep issues like this going, they keep writing about it?
Oh, absolutely. I do agree that if they want it to stay in the forefront, they would keep writing about it. But they don't. They pick and choose which they believe is the hot topic or the hot story, and they go ahead and go with it. And again, I'm not picking on you, Allan. I'm just saying, I don't even know. We're talking about power. We're talking about people in position of power, and you used an example of a judge, making a decision. Has anybody been keeping up with what's going on with consumers' energy? And they're them wanting to sell all these dams for a penny, but on the back end, they're going to make a whole lot of money. And how much impact that is going to have on us in terms of, you're talking about these data centers, how much water they're going to consume, and those kind of things. People don't talk about that. I mean, that's a very interesting story because it impacts every last one of us. And ultimately, the governor decides who's going to sit on that commission in terms of how much money, what the rates are going to be for energy and those kind of things. But nobody really wants to talk about those things
because people don't know about it. People don't know about it. But when you mention the governor, that makes me think about now the push that's coming from Lansing to appoint all the university boards instead of them running for election.
Yeah.
That now that's picking up steam. Allan, should we have the governor pick boards for Wayne, Michigan State, U of M?
I have mixed feelings about that. I don't know how well the elections go. Nobody knows who these candidates are in most cases. Occasionally someone rises up out of controversy or whatever. Do we get the best people? I guess, I have mixed feelings about it. Generally you want a democracy where people elect their officials. At the same time, a board member like that, a lot of boards are appointed. And I was going to point out, by the way, the Conservancy board where Mary sat, that she was one of, I think, 44 board members. And most of them were just by name only on that board. But the People Mover only has 6 board members. And so when you miss, it's one thing when you have 44 board members and you miss a lot of meetings. It's another thing when you only have 6 board members and you miss every meeting for 2 years. I also wanted, Les Moore says, Allan doesn't write about nothing what is told allegedly. Les says that I wanted to read, he says that I have a political agenda and that it's, I'm part of the media and I'm anti-Black. And an anti-Black agenda, which is just totally bullshit. You're covering the city of Detroit. The majority of politicians in the city of Detroit are Black. If you want to have your government covered. I mean, we write about, I had somebody once say, all Deadline, this is years ago, all Deadline Detroit writes about is crime in the city. Why don't you write about crime in the suburbs? And I went for the past 2 weeks and looked, and out of 7 stories, 4 were in the suburbs. So people have perceptions, which, I'm not going to tell you Les Moore is wrong for his I'm going to tell you from my perspective, he's 100% wrong, but he's entitled, as Vanessa would say, he's entitled to his opinion. So,
well, and somebody wrote that, reason I criticize Mary is because I don't like her daddy. My past history. Listen, they 2 different people. I wouldn't want her daddy be in charge of contracts in the city. I'll tell you that. But whether I like her daddy or not, don't make me want to criticize her more, because that's just bullshit. It's separate, and if they not hooked. They not Siamese twins. I'll tell you that.
So to answer your question, because you asked Allan, I'm going to give my answer. You say, should there's talk about the governor being able to appoint people to the board? And I think that people should be elected to the board. It is your responsibility as a voter to find out who these people are. Jocelyn Benson, who's running for governor of the state of Michigan, sat on Wayne State University's board. That's how I was familiar with her. So I think it's important, and it is incumbent upon us to find out who these people are and vote for them. Because what you're going to have is, if you have the governor appoint, right? This governor's in, they're going to appoint somebody that's loyal to them, which I find interesting, because some people have a problem with people being loyal to, a certain person, but they want you to be loyal to them and loyal to the party. You can't have an independent opinion. And then when another faction comes in, you're going to have the same thing. I think that people should have the opportunity to and continue to vote for those people. But again, and I'm not beating up on you, Allan, it's incumbent upon the media to say, hey, these are the candidates. This is what we know about these candidates. Okay.
Well, most of the college boards are appointed. Most of the college boards in Michigan appointed. I'm the big 3 are elected statewide. So they just want the big 3 to fall in line with the other colleges like Adrian College, Olivet, Kalamazoo, Western. They get appointed, and we haven't seen any movement saying that's a bad thing. Life goes on. Now we get 3. Michigan State have had 5 presidents in how many years? Michigan had 4 or 5, and I'm talking about interim presidents in how many years? And Wayne State, 3 or 4 in how many years? So does the board, some members on the board get in a pissing contest with the president, and the president say, fuck that. Pay me what you're going to pay me, and let me get the fuck out of here. And that's what happened up in Michigan State. They ran them out. They blame the presidents for NASA for all the years that he abused these women students there. Same up in Michigan. Football players were abused by a physician up there, and the president take the heat, whether he wasn't there or not. Your argument that you don't blame Mary because it wasn't under her watch, but we do blame the college presidents that when a scandal comes and it goes back 10, 15 years, where who falls on the sword?
So I'm going to have to correct you, because I know exactly what I said. I said one could argue she was
Okay, 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 okay. That's fair enough.
Okay. I want to. One of the comments, Mr. Duckett asked, "Could somebody please summarize what the heck is going on with Michigan State University Board?" I think you've articulated. Duela Boyce says, "Wouldn't it be difficult to vote for 44 members of one board and have several other boards to vote on as well?" She's just asking. You guys want to answer that?
Yeah, well, you know what? You can't have all the shit on the ballot. People say we need to vote for the board. We do vote for a board for Oakland Community College and for Wayne County Community College. They do. Yeah, that's the vote. You know. But go ahead, Al.
I want to say, M. Duckett says the media was submissive and differential. I think deferential. I think to Duggan that any criticism of Mary seems unfair. I'll tell you this: Deadline Detroit. We had Charlie LaDuff was a columnist for us for 4 years, and I can't tell you how many columns he wrote slamming Duggan. I mean, I got calls from the mayor's office at different times. The mayor tried, really to get Pete Carmanos, who was our investor, to intervene, and Pete said, "I can't do that." So we did try. We have limited resources, and the media, more and more people want the same level of coverage that they had 15, 20 years ago. When I was at the Detroit News, we had everybody covering everything. We had 2 education reporters, we had cop reporters we had court reporters everywhere. We had a big Lansing bureau. The money's not there. So when people complain that there's not enough coverage, they don't want to pay for subscriptions to back that.
No, we don't. We had, and then I'll go to you, Vanessa. We had Steve Neveland and Motor City Muckraker.
Right.
We listen. We done had it. We done had the online newspapers, etc. Deadline has been the last person standing, and you're right. But the JOA, the Joint Operation Agreement, they just gutted the both papers. The executives got rich, and the readership suffered for what the product that they keep putting out. And why pay? Would you pay $1, $2 for a regular newspaper that's what now 5 pages or 6 pages? It shouldn't even be a paper. It's all online. Vanessa.
So Allan, you said that Charlie LaDuff was right for Deadline Detroit, and that the former mayor of the city of Detroit contacted Pete Carmanos to get him to intervene. What was he supposed to do? What was he trying to do? Tell him not to
wanted Pete to call me. He wanted Pete to call me and tell me to get Charlie
lay off him.
Yeah, lay him off. And Pete said, I told him I can't do anything. I'm not.
And that's how they operate politically in Detroit. Where if they think you hooked up with somebody, they need to they make a call. I remember when I led the demonstrations against the mayor of Taylor and the police department when they arrested several years ago. When they arrested 3 black youth for the murder of a white mother, and everybody was telling the police, "You got the wrong kids. These kids was on their way to college. They sitting up in jail." And we start demonstrating at the city council, stopped the meeting, demonstrate in front of the Taylor Police Department. Finally, Kim Worthy and them, they dropped the charges only after the mayor of Prevy, he was the mayor at the time, called Warren Evans and say, "Man, can you get that Mongo to stop?" And Warren say, "He doesn't work for me. I don't control what he do or don't." And I said, why would they assume that Warren Evans could make a phone call and tell me to stop demonstrating or whatever. Even if I would work for him, I would do it on my own time, and he couldn't stop. He could fire me, but that's how the game is played.
Somebody was asking about Charlie LaDuff. Is that why he left Deadline Detroit? And the answer is, I mean, he worked for us for 4 years. He got an offer from the Detroit News for more money. And he came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" I said, "Hey, go for it." I said, "If you think it's a better deal."
Yeah.
We're friends. He went to Detroit News. He was doing a lot of the same stuff. He ended up getting fired from there because he made a comment to Dana Nessel. Him and Dana Nessel were going at it, and he made a comment on the Post saying, "See you next Tuesday," which is short for CUNT. And so he got fired for that. And now Charlie has a podcast, and he writes for the Michigan Enjoyer, which I think is supported by Betsy DeVos. So when somebody talks about Charlie being a white liberal, he's not. He's
very conservative. He haven't met a Fox host he didn't like. Charlie's my guy, but he is who he is. And people, you can't lump all the media together, just like you can't lump all attorneys, all doctors, all whatever. You know the profession. Let's move on to what's happening in D.C. A judge blocked the Trump administration. They wanted Trump wanted his name to stay on the Kennedy Center building, and they supposed to took it off yesterday. Allan, what's happening with that?
They were working on it. I think yesterday was the deadline to remove it. The Trump administration tried to, or the board at the Kennedy Center, which is appointed by the president, they tried to do a last-second intervention legally, and the judge said, "No way, take that down." The judge's ruling was basically it was named in honor of President John F. Kennedy. Congress made that decision, and only Congress can make the decision to change the name. I mean, they changed the name of Ronald Reagan, Reagan Airport, in D.C., which was so funny because when I was there at the time, and a lot of Republicans were saying it should be named after a president. It was called Washington,
National.
Yeah, Washington National. And
Washington National.
People said Washington is a president. It's not the name of a city. It's the name of a president, but yet they changed it to, Reagan National.
And a guy that fired every traffic controller when they went on strike, and they named the airport in California after John Wayne, after Ronald Reagan. But we got airports, and I don't have I have a problem with what Trump is doing. He's just killing anything and everything. He's like a dog that pisses on a tree, pisses on the telephone pole to say, "This is my shit." Vanessa.
So, for those people who have opined and said that, the Constitution doesn't exist anymore, this is an example of how the Constitution spells out there's 3 branches of government. There's 3 branches of government. So this is more than just his name being placed on a building. People, learn your history, learn your civics. This is an example of the court saying there's 3 branches of government. This is not within your power. This is not within your purview. That is the big thing. Is really, people's like, well, why are why is the media spending so much time, and why are people spending so much time about his name on the building? Again, we're talking about the United States Constitution, people. And so I think that people need to understand that and respect that. And this is an example of how, 3 branches of government, and everybody is doing what they are supposed to do. That's it.
Well,
Go ahead, and then we're going to take a break. Go ahead.
I'll agree with you. There's three branches of government. The judiciary has been solid in standing up to Trump and derailing some of his unconstitutional acts. What the other branch of government has not lived up to its responsibility is Congress. Republican-controlled Congress has done whatever Trump wants, has not challenged them, and that's not their role to just be a patsy for the president. They're supposed to be a third branch, but they have not acted in that way.
And then no question. We're going to take a break, come back, and continue Detroit in black and white. We're going to get to some of the viewers' questions. This is Adolph Mongo, Vanessa Moss, and Allan Lengel. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Well, welcome back. Vanessa, why don't you read some more questions?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to give a shout out to some new people. I don't remember seeing Terrence Flynn, but good morning, Terrence Flynn. Terrence Flynn actually has made quite a few comments. He says, stop pandering and virtue signaling. He also says Duggan did a great job with a professional handoff. Now go talk about the mess Kwame left. And basically, Terrence also says, let's talk about accountability and holding people accountable for their holding people accountable. You also have less is more. He says, is Kim Worthy, an independent prosecutor, shaking my hand. They also said Bessie DeVos talking about the what is that? The Michigan enjoiner. They can't believe it. Kenneth Reed says they're taking his name off as we speak. Ms. Suzuki says they move really slow, taking down his name. I watched it on TikTok. T. Brown, thank you so much for coming in. You must have heard your name last night. Adolph and I had a conversation about you. Welcome back to Detroit Black and White. Terry McCrimmon says the emperor has no clothes or a cognitive brain. Jill Sheridan, good morning, Jill. She says, Allan, you are so right. To add insult to injury, then Congress complains about the judiciary when they do their job. Miss Sheila says, really? Of science, if you can't write what governing us, the Constitution, how would our future citizens know the laws that govern them? You also have G Money Hollywood. The media is run like a communist organization. You don't have true journalists anymore, and they are to report and slant a story. They are instructed. They are paid to be a news reader if they want a job. And I believe I think I have
okay.
I want to make sure that I acknowledge every single body that has participated in the chat. Mr. Duckett, good morning. So I think that's it.
Well, I wanted to just briefly talk about the Democrat dilemma. The past primary election in Maine, where Democrat and want to chase Susan Collins out of office. Oh, yeah. Collins is not a Republican. She can be good and she can be bad as far as I'm concerned. But this Democrat, when he was in the military, I don't even want to say his name. Tattooed Nazi symbols on him. And obviously, he was part of some Aryan group. Now he won the nomination, and should Democrats, and they're eager to take over the Senate, give national support. Because I know if I was living in Maine and I'm a Democrat, I'd either not vote for the Senate race or vote for Susan Collins. Allan.
I have mixed feelings about it. Was Graham Plattner. I have mixed feelings about the guy. I mean, It's too bad. I guess the bottom line is too bad he's such a flawed candidate. He's doing as good a job as he can of spinning bad behavior of the past into, a story of redemption. Do people buy that? I don't know.
And people bought it. Black voters bought it when George Wallace asked for forgiveness for all the shit and chaos he caused when he served as governor 3 or 4 times in Alabama. They bought it. We had Hugo Black on the Supreme Court, who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan as a young man. They're saying that I renounce all that, and a president bought it and appointed him to the court. So do you, Vanessa, do you buy that this guy is a changed person and he's going to be a loyal Democrat? Yet he's tattooed with these Nazi symbols on his body.
I have mixed feelings with people making people feel that they have to be wedded lock, stock, and barrel.
Right. But he wants Democrat support. But he wants national support. So
question. So I have a problem with people, like you're asking me, if I was living there, am I going to be lock, stock, and barrel wedded to the Democratic Party? I like Allan, believe it or not. I have mixed feelings about this whole situation. I've watched Susan Collins for years, and she's like anybody else as far as I'm concerned. Some things she's done, I agree with, and I don't live there, and I don't have, Michigan don't have all the same exact issues that Maine faces, but she's done some things that's great, and she's done some things that I don't agree with. But isn't that life? So I don't know a candidate that is not flawed. I don't know a person that's not flawed.
So do you? Yeah, somebody said Fetterman was and is a piece of work too, right? Because they knew that Fetterman, when he was lieutenant governor, pulled guns on black kids and stuff, and he was a borderline bigot, but we're so the National Democrats so eager to flip that seat that they accept warts and all, which every candidate do have warts, and you got to accept the warts and all. Allan,
the flip side of it is that Susan Collins, she seems like a very nice person. She does occasionally side against Trump in very extreme cases that are obvious that she should, but her voting record is more than 90% where she votes aligned with Trump. And so, that's probably an issue that's going to be taken into consideration. People want to not, whether neuter or whatever, or neutralize more of Trump power. And so that's part of the equation there in Maine. So,
well, Maine is one of those states where they got an independent senator. They at times I had independents elected governor, and when I visited Maine several years ago, they had a black woman. She was the Speaker of the House. She was a Democrat from representing Portland, Maine. So they politics varies all over the place. From right-wing Republicans to liberal Democrats to independent candidates. So Michigan. I thought we was going to have that here in Michigan when Duggan announced that he was going to run as an independent, but he found that, this is my opinion, that the folks he thought, well, I got behind me, that's Detroiters who supported him, and all I have to do is sell my agenda to the rest of the state. I didn't think the Detroiters was behind them, because the hardcore Detroiters is not marking an I. They going D. And only way he wins Detroit is they commit a total voter fraud. There's no question about it, and he wasn't going to be able to raise that kind of dough that he needed. And there he is. He's gone. You know, too bad, because we do need more candidates other than a Democrat or Republican. We need to be able to elect an independent, and I'm not talking about wrestlers like Jesse Ventura in Minnesota or Arnold Schwarzenegger come and decide to run to fill out a term of a governor who was impeached, recalled, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody talk about Lisa Murkowski and the same. I mean, she had voted against Trump. I think she voted to convict him.
I don't understand her. They kicked her out of the Republican Party in Alaska. She mounted a write-in for the Senate and won. So she shouldn't owe Trump shit.
Right.
Shouldn't owe him nothing. You know, it should be a no-brainer voting against his ass. But she still got those Republican roots. You know, her daddy was the governor, and you know that name. It might be hard to pronounce, but that name is well known in the state of Alaska. So yeah.
She said she's afraid of Trump. She says, you know what it takes to go up against Trump. Some of these people they don't want to deal with death threats and added security and all that. So they figure the easy route is just to
support. That sounds like a mobster. You know, sound like John Gotti. You know, Trump. Yeah, but you know, we got an election here, and it's been kind of dead. One of our viewers said that Jocelyn Benson dropped out of a debate and don't want to debate. Why should she? You know, who is she running against? We had him on the show.
Yeah, Chris Swanson, the sheriff in Genesee County.
Yeah, it sounds like a guy that know a lot, you know, but he's getting no traction. Right. The powers that be, they anointed Jocelyn Benson, the new Granholm 3.0. We had Granholm 2.0 leaving office. That's Whitmer, you know. Now we got 3.0 because they're going to woo you. Granholm said in the last term, she's going to blow Michigan away, you know, as governor. But what can I say?
If you were the campaign manager, she's ahead by so much. Is there any benefit?
No, she shouldn't.
Yeah.
She shouldn't. She shouldn't. The only thing, it only hurts her, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's, Allan, you get your final thought.
My final thoughts. I was going to bring up real quick. The Gordie Howe Bridge was supposed to open on Monday. The Trump administration has delayed it, and the Toronto Globe and Mail, out of Toronto, the national newspaper in Canada, has reported that Howard Lutnick and Pete, who's the Secretary of Commerce, and Pete Hoekstra, who is the U.S. ambassador to Canada, are the ones who held it up because they're trying to help Matthew Maroon. They're trying to make a deal so that he gets some of the business, so all the business isn't taken away by that bridge. And it happened to be that Maroon earlier this year donated $1 million to President Trump's PAC. And so I don't have a problem with them trying to help out a business person who's been a business person for a long time, but the way it's been done.
The way that bridge came about is because people like Jim Blanchard, Dick Postumus, all them was on the payroll of the Canadian fucking government.
Yeah.
And they was lobbying D.C. So tit for tat. I'm for whatever they do, in this case, to give Matthew Maroon and the Ambassador Bridge a fair shake, and give it to them. What, you going to put them out of business when nobody wanted the bridge? And the bridge should have been with the proposed bridge was supposed to be in Grosse Isle, and it wasn't. The people ran it right back to Southwest Detroit. So yeah, and they displaced all these residents. They didn't get jack shit but a couple of dollars, while the folks over in Canada was getting 80, 90, $100,000 for their homes. So yeah, fuck the Canadian government. Make them make it even. That's my final thought. Vanessa, you had the last say.
Oh, I think I've said something similar to what you said. They, about the bridge and where it was supposed to be built. And those people said, "No, you're not going to bring our property value down. Move it somewhere else." The residents in that area said we don't want it, and they did it anyway. So, on both sides, Manny Maroon, whatever. Canada, whatever. So anyway, what I want to say is I was over at Detroit Play Education Center earlier this week, and I ran into someone who watches the show, and they are not going to say anything in the chat, but they teach a self-defense class at Hellman Recreation Center for people 60 years old and older at the Hellman Center. That's on every Monday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for 8 weeks. They also teach it on every Wednesday from 1 to 2 at the Lasky Recreation Center. So I think that's important. Those are some very nice recreation centers. If you want to learn self-defense, as you get older, if you're not carrying your heat, you may want to be able to, defend yourself. But the other thing I want to say is I want to say thank you to everybody that has joined us every Wednesday, every Friday, and every Saturday morning. We recognize that you could be spending your time doing something else, but you decide to spend your time with us. We thank you so much. We'll be back on Wednesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Take care.